Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia as well. And they are not simply being carried out by organized military forces. We have very disturbing reports now of some of these paramilitary units, such as the Tigers of Aachen that made themselves so notorious just a few years ago in Bosnia, once again operating in Kosovo, and of weapons in the hands of Serb civilians also contributing. Furthermore, there seems to be a deliberate campaign going on to target political and intellectual leaders in the Kosovo-Albanian community. We have reports of a prominent lawyer and his 2 sons killed. We have reports of 20 teachers killed. We have reports of trade unionists killed. And we know of many journalists, for example, Veton Suroy of Kohar Ditori, who have gone to ground and are now in hiding. In fact, we note the statement of one of the Albanian leaders, Mr. Thaci, yesterday, that the last few days have been the worst moment at any time since the initiation of the current Serb offensive in Kosovo. I want to make it clear once again, ladies and gentlemen, that NATO countries are gathering evidence on any atrocities or any instances of ethnic cleansing. Not only evidence of those who are pulling the trigger, but also on unit commanders who are giving the orders or who are condoning these criminal activities. Every piece of evidence we gather will be sent to the International Criminal Tribunal in The Hague, which has the mandate to pursue war crimes offences in Kosovo, and I am certain that when the facts come out, there will be a number of indictments by that tribunal. And I also want to make it clear that over the last few hours, even if we don't have yet conclusive evidence of all these cases, we are receiving from a variety of different sources. All our governments are receiving from a variety of different sources more and more indications, more and more pieces of the jigsaw puzzle that point to a truly horrible situation unfolding in Kosovo. And I want to say once again that nothing, I repeat, nothing excuses this kind of behavior. And any attempt to present this as somehow a response to NATO's air operations is perverse. Now, ladies and gentlemen, in response, as you know, to this deteriorating situation on the ground in Kosovo, yesterday evening, the Secretary General directed General Clark, the Supreme Allied Commander, to initiate a broader spectrum of air operations. The Secretary General did this in consultation with all Allied governments. The fact that those consultations were very brief and very decisive, and the fact that all 19 governments quickly gave their assent at the highest political levels to the broader range of air operations underlines once again the unity and the resolve of this alliance in seeing this through to the achievement of our humanitarian objective. This afternoon, we are briefing our partner countries, now just as I speak, on this new broader range of air operations. We are always transparent in our decision-making vis-à-vis our partner countries. I would also like, if I may, just to take a very brief moment to remind all of you that NATO's air operations are a last resort. This is not a trigger-happy organisation. We have taken a long time to come to this painful decision to strike. I'd like to remind you that the violence in Kosovo started a year ago. In fact, in March last year. The US ambassador to the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia, Chris Hill, has spent the best part of a year shuttling between Belgrade and Pristina, trying to get negotiations started. The European Union, very early on, offered international mediation to Milosevic in the shape of Felipe González, refused by Milosevic. Milosevic consistently refused to stop the violence and allow negotiations to begin. Then in September, Milosevic went to Moscow and concluded an agreement with Boris Yeltsin to stop the violence. broken promises. Then in October, he concluded another agreement with the US envoy Richard Holbrooke to stop the violence, to issue a statement of principles to negotiate a political solution in Kosovo, and to allow an OSCE verification mission on the ground, which he allowed, but then systematically proceeded to hamper all of its work and activities increasingly, to the extent that that mission had finally to be withdrawn. On October the 25th, he signed yet another agreement, this time with NATO, in which he promised to withdraw his forces back to their barracks, to respect the March levels, to declare and honour a ceasefire, and to have no more than 3 companies out of barracks in the field. Broken promises, very quickly indeed. Then in Paris, or at Rambouillet and subsequently Paris, we had 17 days of negotiations. Paris, another week of negotiations, in which it became clear at the end President Milosevic did not want to participate meaningfully. So we have had a year in which every conceivable diplomatic track has been tried and exhausted before NATO has taken the painful but necessary decision to resort to force. Finally, I would just like to say our governments are resolved because we are acting in a just cause. We are convinced of that. And I believe also that there are indications that we have the support of our public opinion. I don't expect public opinion to be enthusiastic about the fact that we are dropping bombs on Yugoslavia. Naturally not. But I believe the current opinion polls show that public opinion understands that this has to be done to avoid the greatest humanitarian catastrophe in Europe since World War II. And we are grateful for that support, and on the basis of that support, we will continue until our objectives are met. David.
Thanks very much indeed, Jamie. Could you open the curtains, please? And if you could just give me 1 second. Curtains, please. Technology, ladies and gentlemen.
We did promise.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. During the last 24 hours, NATO has continued to conduct a highly competent and professional air campaign despite the difficult prevailing weather conditions. We have also safely recovered the pilot of the aircraft which went down over the Federal Republic of Yugoslavia last night. And I will return to this topic later in the briefing. In Kosovo, a huge wave of refugees is being forced towards the borders of Albania and the Fyrom. Fry forces are engaged in a wholesale cleansing of Albanian populations in wide areas and even in areas outside Kosovo in Leskovac. On this map you will see the areas depicted. Leskovac to the far east, Pogijevo to the north, in the middle Sabica, underneath that Maleševo, and to the left Đakovica. This is forcing people from their homes. Villages are being systematically emptied, looted, and permanently destroyed in what Jamie has already described as what has become known as a scorched earth policy. There are reports of men being separated from their families and of summary executions. Fry forces are also attempting to create a sterile buffer zone within 10 nautical miles of the Albanian border by moving all Albanian populations out of that area. As an example, the spokesman for Albania, Kosovans, Mr. Rugova, is now in hiding and his house has been burned. Importantly, Serb aircraft are now involved in attacking locations in Kosovo. These Super Galab aircraft have been reported each day in action over the areas of ethnic cleansing which I depicted previously on the board. And they are also attacking suspected KLA positions. We also know that Serb forces are making good use of deserted schools and public buildings as barrack accommodation in the field. I would like to turn now to last night's attacks. The offensive campaign consisted of some 253 sorties and focused on targets in the areas depicted on this slide. Allied air forces again conducted attacks throughout the fry of the integrated air defense system, and in addition on military and MUP command and control and logistic facilities. Actions against FRI and MUP force headquarters in Kosovo also took place. This range of activity will continue to set the pattern for the campaign with the aim of increasing our flexibility and our capability to prosecute a greater variety of Serbian military and MUP operations. Evidence is already confirming the emerging effectiveness of our efforts in these vital areas, and without significant collateral damage to civilian life or infrastructure. I have a few post and pre-strike target imageries to show you. We'll start with this first one at Somber Airfield, and you can see here all the hazards perfectly set out, and if we look at the second shot of exactly the same, you will see the HAZ in the top has been taken out. We move on to the second target, please, which is at Niche. Once again, we were after the areas depicted here with the arrows, ammunition and storage facilities. This is the pre-strike shot. And here you will see the damage caused in the post-strike shots. My final shot for you today is of Podgorica airfield. And here you'll see the arrows depicting the targets. And now quite clearly you'll see those targets very effectively taken out. Last night, most of our attacks experienced the same sort of limited response from air defences as that we'd had on previous nights, although there was an increase in SAM-3 activity. However, as you will know, we did lose one aircraft some 28 miles northwest of Belgrade. As yet, we still have to determine the precise cause, but I can confirm that the aircraft was an F-117 Nighthawk, and that it crashed at around 1945 Zulu. We were able to mount a very successful combined rescue operation, which highlighted the tremendous teamwork between our allied nations. And this was conducted and finished around 2:45 Zulu. The sensitive nature of such operations precludes me from releasing any more details. But suffice to say, the pilot is in good shape and in safe hands, and is actively engaged in working through the events of last night and otherwise continuing his military duties. I spoke yesterday of advances in technology, and this complex, courageous, and extremely professionally orchestrated rescue serves as a wonderful example of our united capabilities. To effect such a swift rescue deep in hostile territory was something of which we are all justly proud. During the night, many of you will have heard the mendacious claim from Belgrade that Phantom jets were shot down and aircrews captured. I can confirm that we lost no other aircraft and we lost none of our aircrews. As we continue, our resolve and determination is high as we focus our efforts on attacking those operations on the ground that have been causing so much distress and hardship to the Kosovo Albanians. Jamie, ready for questions?
Okay, David, right, we go to questions. See plenty of hands up. We'll try to get to everybody. First, Patricia, please.
Yeah, I've two questions, one for you, Jamie, and one for the Air Commodore. Air Commodore, the British government has already announced its intention to add further planes to the operation to help in phase 2. What sort of commitments have you had so far from other allied nations? And Jamie, for you, in your statement about the War Crimes Tribunal, does this mean that President Milosevic is now considered somebody who could be indicted for war crimes, and can he be indicted while he is still remains president of this country?
Firstly, you've obviously heard of the British intent to give us some more aircraft. I haven't got the full details of other contributions, but by tomorrow I should be able to give you a better update of what is coming.
Will you all get some more contributions?
I'm sure we will get a few more contributions. I cannot give you details.
Patricia, as you know, it's quite clear in the statutes of the International Criminal Tribunal that its jurisdiction is throughout Yugoslavia, and that includes Kosovo and Yugoslavia in general. And it's up, of course, to the prosecutor of the tribunal to decide who she wishes to indict. Our job is going to be to supply her, Justice Albur, with all of the evidence in our possession to facilitate her task. But as far as I'm concerned, any individual, serving or otherwise, in Yugoslavia who has responsibility either for committing, authorizing or condoning war crimes is liable to be indicted. Okay, I think we'll come here to Pavel, please.
Thank you, Jimmy. Czech TV, we have a Czech proverb saying, after the battle, everybody is a general. Trying to avoid that, I have a question to Air Commodore. Entering the phase 2 now, has it been done enough for the safety of the Allied pilots during the phase 1? I mean, were the risk of hostile environment really diminished as much as possible?
I explained to you earlier this week, it seems only a couple of days, or it would appear longer, but there is a fine balance between making this change. And you will know too that I said that this was a very sophisticated air defense system. Some people talk of a David and Goliath fight. Well, I can assure you that it's not that case. We are up against a very hostile, very well trained and sophisticated environment which has trained for many years. We have, however, done much to degrade the system, and I can assure you that whatever attacks that we prosecute in the coming days, that we will make sure that we take every advantage of our equipment and of our electronic countermeasures and of all the other things to make sure that when we go in for an attack, it is as safe as possible for our aircrews.
Okay, Ingemar, please.
Yes, you mentioned that there was a briefing going on with the partner countries. I believe there was a meeting in the political committee yesterday, diplomats, because of concerns of the partner countries about their own security. What are you telling them at this briefing? Are the allies going to commit themselves to defend those territories?
Well, Ingemar, we've made it clear in terms of a letter that the Secretary-General has written to those neighbouring countries that are partners of ours, that NATO would not stand aside, would not be indifferent to any threat to their security. We have, under our PFP agreement, the ability to hold emergency consultations. We have had those in the last couple of days, as you know, with the Albanian government. The Secretary-General has also been in touch, as I mentioned, with the government of the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia. Obviously, we condemn the violent demonstrations against Western embassies, Allied embassies, that took place in Skopje just a few days ago, and which did not seem to be entirely spontaneous. It has to be said. But we are concerned. These countries are in an extremely delicate position at the moment.
Well, clearly we've lost the feed there from the NATO briefing. However, we have heard some very interesting information there from NATO, and Francis Chusa, our analyst, is with us. So Francis, what was new there? We're going back half an hour, quite a lot of stuff. What was the salient points?
I would say mainly about the actual areas where the ethnic cleansing is going on, rather than saying in a general sense, well, it's going on in Kosovo. They were giving exact town areas, these little valleys